Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 74 of JustDario Cigar Time. As I'm recording this video, is a beautiful Sunday morning here in China where I am right now, and we are less than 20 hours away from Globex market trading reopening. Today I want to talk about two important things. The first thing is an update on the oil market, because there are important developments on that front. And the second thing is AI and AI companies. It is a topic I covered extensively for a while, but recently, for obvious reason, I had to put aside a little because cannot cover everything at the same time. So before we begin, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to my channel, and turn on the notifications if you don't want to miss any of my future updates. So with regards to the first topic in the oil market, there is a very important thing happening right now that finally is getting a little bit of coverage on social and mainstream media, but far from enough, and of course is being completely ignored by stock traders. And this topic is, the matter is that there are a huge amount of empty oil tankers sailing towards the United States to get supply of crude oil and other oil derivatives. It has been calculated that the number currently sailing towards the US is about double than the usual number. And why this is important? Because as many think, the law of demand and supply, especially for commodities, applies. So what do you think it's gonna happen to the oil price when you have all this huge number of oil tankers all converging towards the very same spot that is in the Gulf of Mexico to buy crude and ship it throughout the rest of the world? Because so far there are 1 billion barrels of oil supply that have been lost because of the disruptions of the supply chain in the Strait of Hormuz, and the consequences are accelerating into the economy, even if everyone, especially some mainstream media, wants the public to believe that is not the case. But I'm pretty sure everyone noticed how airlines are canceling more and more flights. They are increasing ticket prices, with some airlines even saying that they don't expect to reduce the prices if things suddenly normalize in the Strait of Hormuz, because of course they know it's gonna take years for those to normalize, and differently from what the market is still pricing. That it's not pricing an oil shock, but this oil shock is closer and closer, like it or not. It's remarkably taking quite a long time for traders to realize what's happening. Of course, market manipulation, we have seen so much of it again this week, is definitely not helping fair market pricing of the real state of the economy. But then everything is again converging, and is the point, the flash point, where we might start seeing things getting to another level, is this immense demand for readily available commercial supply that is in the United States. There have been already 2 weeks of significant draws in the market, and if you start getting huge amount of draws, especially oil that is supposed to stay in the US going away in large quantities in Europe and Asia, then it's gonna be very hard to pretend that everything is fine. Well, of course it is not. And as if this wasn't enough, as I said many times, everyone should be prepared for things in the Middle East to worsen before there is a chance they might get better. And why? Because clearly the peace negotiations are going nowhere. The two sides are too far from each other. And furthermore, as I highlighted, why do you think the United States is now bringing double the amount of the military in the region compared to the one they brought there before the conflict started on the 28th of February. I don't think they are going to spend so much money just to, take all that military on vacation in the area. Of course not. So it's pretty much obvious, and this is becoming more and more the consensus, that there will be another military escalation. And what I find it incredible is that the market is not pricing this at all. Maybe thinking that, it's gonna end up like Russia and Ukraine, where they've been like, doing what they're doing for the 4 years, and that war didn't really impact the global economy. But in this case, the setup is completely different, and everyone's assumption that markets, can only go up forever and that volatility will always remain low, might all of a sudden shatter. So be careful about the development on the penny stock. Be careful about the impact of sudden headline. We saw in the past week something very interesting. After the ceasefire officially ended, Iran tested some of these air defenses, and when those bangs made headlines on social media, you saw immediately market moving in a direction that no one wanted to, with oil spiking very quickly. And that should not be the case because it's a commodity, but we know it's a huge paper market. And so far, the probabilities of things worsening more and more are actually rising, even if there are so many people busy celebrating their speculative gains from the past week. So, and here I want to go on the second matter, because in terms of like euphoria and speculation, we saw something pretty incredible in the AI bubble this week. And what we saw is that Intel, that is a company that has serious business problems, effectively exploded to fresh all-time highs on Friday. And in less than 12 months, it hit both all-time lows and all-time highs, and this is pretty incredible. And how did he manage to, to accomplish such a huge turnaround? Is because there has been like massive, improvement in the business. It's because like they discover something great or whatever. Not at all, really. If you look close into the results, effectively Intel has been able to beat expectations this quarter because of the sale of old inventory. That's pretty incredible. But then, of course, the management had to spin things around, and they provided very bullish market projections for demand for their own CPU because of AI, and so on and so forth. And everyone started to buy, CPU companies, because, those people that missed the GPU companies like NVIDIA, then started to pile up on the memory companies. And now people that missed the train on both GPU companies and memory companies, guess what? CPU, wow, let's go. Everyone into it like crazy. And like all the companies, like even companies that have not, no material, real presence or no material update in the market. Like I've seen, like for example, like someone was wondering why Qualcomm was increasing so much yesterday. They were like, oh, they have their own CPUs and whatever. I'm like, come on, guys. I mean, this is becoming like completely ridiculous. And actually, this is not the update I wanted to provide you. The update is that DeepSeek released its new models. And you have to appreciate the big difference of reaction this time compared to the first time when DeepSeek released its model. The first time, the whole market acknowledged what happened, and effectively they acknowledged that China could develop a cutting-edge and a top-level type of AI for a fraction of a cost. And when it happened for the first time, the market corrected, including like companies like NVIDIA. But then, the narrative had to be turned around, and the people, they say, oh, they did that because they smuggled GPUs In reality, they still use US technology, the data are not true, whatever. Okay, fine. Now, fast forward 1 year. They released a model that has been completely developed out of chips manufactured in China. And that model has been delivered, of course, at a fraction of a cost, but not only that, it will cost clients less than 90%, you know, it's a fraction of the cost to run tokens and workload on the DeepSeek frontier open source model compared to Anthropic and OpenAI. And the difference this time has been incredible, because while a lot of people highlighted this and effectively highlighted how this huge discrepancy between the resources being spent, especially in the United States, to build data center like in every possible shape or form, to continue piling up on GPUs that, by the way, most of them are sitting idle in warehouses because the data centers cannot be developed that fast. And also there are news coming that a lot of data centers that were due to be completed this year, about 50%, are not going to be completed, and more data center projects are going to be scrapped because they lack the necessary funding. So even if there has been, like, you know, someone that tried to bring focus to all these things and whatever, the truth is that at this time, like, the euphoria is so big. People are making like paper gains so easily in the market. I even saw a post of a guy that took 700,000 US of his grandma inheritance and put it in on Intel stock. I mean, things like that, that no one cared. Like, the week closed with markets and at all-time high, with oil lower because we got of course, timely barrage of fake news. And even if during the weekend President Trump confirmed that we're not going to be any peace talk, like, here we are pretending that everything is awesome, while no matter the direction where you see things, even if you take what's happening in the Strait of Hormuz out of the picture, all these bubbles like growing into the economy and inflating and becoming very dangerous are more and more snowballing to a point that they cannot continue inflating, even if the market, so far the paper prices, say otherwise, and not considering the fact that all these events of the Strait of Hormuz are actually accelerating the inevitable. But no worries, as I said, like this week, as I said several times, I totally expect that Kevin Walsh is gonna be confirmed as chairman of the Fed, and everything is gonna bottom when his almighty power to print infinite amount of money out of thin air is gonna be unleashed, because no one nowadays can stomach a market going down. Even if more and more people are realizing that even if, you know, markets are going up and whatever, like, it's no benefit whatsoever for the real economy, because the real purchasing power is being destroyed. And ultimately, you know, all these things, they might last very long, but never forget that we always ultimately be a reckoning at some stage. And what I'm a bit worried about, and for the first time I'm not alone at all on the matter, is that things can really snap all of a sudden, especially when things are so raging euphoric, and it takes literally a blip, especially in the Middle East, for people to move from euphoria to panic in the blink of an eye. Take care out there. Thanks a lot for listening to my weekly update once again, for supporting me on X, on Instagram, and for reading my research on JustDario.com. I wish everyone a happy Sunday and a nice week ahead.